This is Bruce Friedman of Adult Site Broker, and welcome to Adult Site Broker Talk, where every week we interview one of the movers and shakers of the adult industry, and we discuss what's going on in our business. Plus, we give you a tip on buying and selling websites. This week, we'll be talking to Morgan Sommer of CyberSocket. Adult Site Broker is proud to announce Adult Site Broker Cash, the first affiliate program for an adult website brokerage. With Adult Site Broker Cash, you'll have the chance to earn as much as 20% of our broker commission, referring sellers and buyers to us at Adult Site Broker. Check our website at adultsitebroker.com for more details. First of all, today, let's cover some of the news going on in our industry. Before the beginning of Monday's hearing to set the preliminary date in the case against Ron Jeremy, the DA overseeing the case told Jeremy's attorney he was filing an amended complaint adding 20 extra charges to the 8 existing charges of sexual assault against the adult performer. Jeremy appeared in court on Monday where he pled not guilty to the new charges. The preliminary hearing was postponed to October 28th. His last hearing was June 26th, when his bail was set at $6.6 million, and he's been in custody ever since. Jeremy's attorney, Stuart Goldfarb, has confirmed that the new charges stem from 13 new incidents, some of them as recent as earlier this year. The amended complaint includes 6 counts of sexual battery by restraint, 5 counts of forcible rape, 3 counts of forcible oral copulation, 2 counts of forcible penetration by a foreign object, and 1 count each of sodomy, assault with intent to commit rape, penetration by a foreign object on an unconscious or sleeping victim, and lewd conduct with a 15-year-old girl. VR Bangers has started production of their virtual reality content in 8K ultra-high definition, beginning with Spencer Bradley in Bachelor No More. A studio rep described the 4K and 6K ultra-high def immersive VR experience as smooth, clean, and pretty much giving you the unique feeling that you've been there with the girl you just watched, even though she most likely was on the other side of the world. Now imagine that we could double or maybe even triple or quadruple the amount of smoothness you've just experienced, giving you something even better. 6K Ultra High Def, which was originally designed for movie theaters, gave viewers as much as 19 million pixels as long as the user had a high-end VR headset capable of displaying such high resolutions. Meanwhile, 8K goes even beyond that, giving you an almost overwhelming number of pixels and providing an even more spectacular experience. Even though the display of the VR visor remains unchanged, the amount of pixels per inch is going higher, effectively giving a smoother and more lifelike experience. Now let's feature our property of the week that's for sale at Adult Site Broker. We're offering a sex toy review site dedicated to exploring sexuality and sharing and reviewing the author's favorite sex toys. The thing that really stands out is the extremely high quality content used throughout the site. Most sites, especially review sites, use junk content that is very obviously written just to rank for terms in Google. This site is written in the first person and is a joy to read. The authors take the reader on a journey, showing them which toys that they find the most enjoyable and explaining how to best use them. The rankings in Google are high because Google has rewarded this site due to the quality of the content. It's also a nicely diversified site in terms of revenue. It's from a good mix of affiliate offers, so the business doesn't hinge on only one main program. The site is also very diversified in terms of traffic to individual pages. The most trafficked page on the site only makes up 14% of the traffic, so it's not dependent on just one page ranking well. All content is exclusive, nothing's been taken from elsewhere. Pretty much all of the traffic comes from organic Google results. No ad or traffic buying has ever taken place. This is an outstanding opportunity for the new owner if they want to further boost the traffic. This outstanding sex toy review site is available for only $225,000. Now time for this week's interview. My guest today on Adult Site Broker Talk is Morgan Sommer, the founder of CyberSocket. Morgan, thanks for being with us today on Adult Site Broker Talk.
I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad you're here at 6 a.m. your time.
Yeah.
Now, CyberSocket is and has been for a long time the leader in online LGBTQ information. They run the CyberSocket Web Awards every January and also do the now famous CyberSocket parties at many adult trade shows. They also have the Gay Board. Cybersocket.com has site reviews, movie reviews, a site and company directory, articles, a blog, and even live cams. Morgan and his company have been an incredible contributor to our industry. And frankly, I can't imagine it without them. First of all, Morgan, what's new over at CyberSocket?
At the moment, right, we're not doing anything different other than about a year ago, we stopped producing the print magazine after 21 years. It just became, it was always expensive, and it just became, 70% of cost and 20% of revenue.
Sure.
And as long as it was still producing 50% of revenue, it was still worth producing in spite of its cost.
Mm-hmm.
But it also, it coincided with some other changes where I'd been doing basically the same job for 21 years, and I wasn't interested in doing that particular job anymore at the same level I was doing it. So, so we made some structural changes in terms of what the company was producing, what we were selling, and then I also took a back seat for about 6 months and let our management team and my business partner take the lead. While I pursued some other interests and did things like got certified to teach spin classes. And
oh, cool.
So then I started teaching 6 spin classes a week for a while.
Jeez.
All the while still working on CyberSocket, doing the award show for two years and all that stuff. But I also, my interest in advertising have also kind of shifted. And I started pursuing some other active, just started pursuing some other avenues for how to be able to sell the kinds of things I want to sell. And because in the adult sphere, we're very limited as to what we're able to do. So, but that experience outside of the industry has also helped me to hone my message and our purpose for what we're trying to accomplish within the adult industry.
That's cool. Now, you're, besides still working with CyberSocket, you've got a mainstream regular gig now. Tell us about it.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
So, that was part of that process, is me looking around, trying to figure out what interested me. And I found that selling broadcast TV advertising along with digital stuff was what I was really interested in. And it always fascinated me. And I was basically relegated to a print and adult site realm where, there's very limited avenues. So I pursued that. I work for an ABC affiliate here in Wichita.
Yeah.
I'm selling TV advertising along with national and regional and even international digital advertising. Cool. And that's kind of interesting because it gives me a perspective on how the rest of the world is working in terms of marketing, where the real big money is being spent in marketing, how it's being spent, the kinds of tactics that people are using, the technological innovations that have taken place that have kind of bypassed, that the adult industry has never been able to participate in because they were never offered.
Yeah.
So it's been really fascinating, but it's also given me a fresh perspective that I then take back to CyberSocket every week. So I'm still doing CyberSocket 10 hours a week. I just am not in the details of every day.
Sure.
So
now, that was a big move for you a couple of years ago, up and moving from LA to Kansas. How has that been for you?
That was actually a good choice because, LA can be kind of a grind. And the things I moved there for at 26, I got. But it wasn't what I wanted anymore at 50. So By the time we kept coming back and forth to visit Michael's family here in Kansas, and I came at all different seasons, saw the worst of it and the best of it, and all the while, in the back of my head, I was kind of secretly thinking it would be neat to live there, and it was decided when we came here for the holidays one Christmas, and went house shopping, and I saw what I could get.
Oh yeah.
So then all of a sudden we bought a house before we'd even wrapped up life in LA.
Sure.
And that was that. But it's just
there's a family connection.
It's that, and it's also just we kept looking for a different place to live in the U.S. because we're building a house in Costa Rica, and so we needed some place that's here and some place where we could. At the time, the plan was both work remotely. And this seemed like a good place. And now my parents are even here. They sold their house in San Diego and bought a really nice house here. And so we're all here. So this basically it's basically home base now.
That is completely awesome, man. You seem to really love it. I think I'm really happy for you.
Yep. And then at this point, we both have jobs that have tied us into the community here as well. So we're both working in marketing, and both working with the digital stuff.
Sure.
So just working for competitive companies, which makes for interesting and stilted dinner conversations where we may be working with the same client but can't talk about it.
I bet. What, is he working for another television station?
Yes, he is.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
I used to sell radio advertising, so I find that fascinating that now you're the Herb Tarlick of Wichita.
I don't know who Herb Tarlick is.
Oh God, you're so young, man. You never watched WKRP in Cincinnati?
Oh, I remember that show when I was a kid.
Okay. Yeah. Herb Tarlick was the now you remember. Yeah, he was the sales manager.
Okay.
with all the crazy sport coats and stuff.
Yep.
So you're now the Herb Tarlick of Wichita. I love it. So how do you feel the adult industry has responded to the COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, I think studios that shut down production did so out of a sense of responsibility. But I think that what they did was they basically just dropped everyone off the face of the earth with no recourse. So honestly, I don't think they did a very good job of it at all, because the industry has always been structurally extremely uncaring about its own talent. Most companies, not all, but most companies have just simply dropped everyone. They've dropped the people that worked inside the companies. They've dropped the talent who basically suddenly found themselves with zero income. And I think that, they dropped a lot of the ancillary people that do the production work for them or finish their videos and all of that other stuff. They just simply dropped everyone.
Yeah.
And I understand economics. Trust me, I'm a good capitalist. But what they did was basically poison the well in a sense, because they've shown everyone how important they really are to the functioning of these companies, which in a lot of cases shows that they aren't very important.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of
disposable spare parts. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's always been that tension in the industry where the models and the talent have been referred to using terms like content as if they're just an object or a commodity, right? And anyway, so I think that we've just seen that super illustrated once again.
Yeah.
And I think that there is a backlash that'll happen with that, where studios will expect loyalty again once they start producing. That loyalty will probably not come back, or if it comes back, it's going to come back at a price.
Yeah, especially with the clip and cam market being what it is, people can do things independently now.
Yeah, and I think that because so many people have now been forced into basically doing stuff solo, I don't think you're going to woo them back. Well, now they have more financial independence than they've had before. The only way to get the really qualified people back is going to be to pay them better. and to maybe make more guarantees, right? To sign people to contracts where they're getting salaries, and treating them like proper employees rather than just everyone pretending everybody's an independent contractor.
Sure. How do you feel like the LGBTQ market has evolved in the past few years?
To tell you the truth, this is part of what made my decision to pursue work outside of the industry, is that I think the industry in a lot of ways has eaten itself. The pool of people playing in the market has gotten a lot smaller.
Sure.
Over the last 10 years, lots of smaller companies have either disappeared or consolidated into larger companies.
Right.
And therefore, the pool of people and personalities in it has gotten a lot tighter.
Right.
And I think that's where innovation has now stifled. Like that, we've gotten into a rut with a lot of things. The LGBT market has a few really successful companies, and then dozens of small, struggling companies.
Sure.
And I don't think they see there's less reward for them because the traffic market is locked up and they cannot compete. And so I think, there's a lot of people I know that I talk to who are very discouraged about their ability to continue doing what they do.
Right.
This is just a function of how much energy do they want to put into a diminishing return.
Sure. So along those same lines, where did all of the small independent gay content producers go?
A lot of them have just left the industry altogether, or they wrap themselves up into affiliate program aggregators, and are hoping to make a living through that by having someone else manage the affiliate side of things and hopefully traffic. But I know that for most of the people I talk who do that, that's also not been successful. So I think people are looking at trying to extricate themselves from those contracts if they can, or they're just leaving and moving on and doing other things.
Sure.
Most people had something they did before they delved into the adult realm.
Yeah.
So a lot of people I know are very, very busy with whatever that is. And so I think at this point, there's a lot of the traffic market for adult traffic is really tied up in a couple big networks and traffic brokers. And unless you have a lot of money to play, really, it's very difficult to get any effective traffic.
Oh, of course.
And I think that serves the larger companies just fine. They don't care.
Right.
It doesn't affect them, and they don't see it from the small company point of view. The smaller guys I see cannot afford to buy enough traffic to make the returns they need anymore.
Got it. Okay, so I know my opinion on this, but I'll ask you, what do you think trade shows are relevant anymore?
Personally, I stepped back from my 9 a year to 2. No, because here's the thing. The people I needed to do business with the most weren't at the trade shows anymore. And that was largely the content producers and or the true powerhouse affiliates. They were not showing up at the trade shows, not in the numbers they used to. The trade shows simply became the ancillary business people all talking to each other, and the same people talking to each other over and over and over again, following each other around. And a room filled with representatives from the third-party billing companies is wonderful. They're all great people, but I only have room for so many merchant accounts. Or
traffic people, which seems to be what has overwhelmed the shows lately.
Right, and we always have 2 merchant accounts at any given time, but I can't hold a merchant account from everyone that wants me to have one with them.
Of course.
And have, relationships with every IPSP. It's just not possible to do all of that.
Of course.
And everyone is tripping over each other, telling you why their rates are better, their throughput's better. It's just It's just nonstop. And then the affiliates that do show up, or the affiliate reps that show up from studios, all say the same thing. Their conversion rates are the best. Our content is the best. Well, everyone's not the best. It's not true. And everyone's conversion rates are wildly not the same. And we know that because we're an affiliate of 200 companies, and we track every affiliate program we promote across our network of websites. So, because we have the CyberSocket site, an older, gigantic, monstrous one that called Juicy Goo, and then we have a bunch of blogs, and we move companies and or programs through our network of sites. It's a closed network. We don't really do traffic deals with anyone. We don't. There's just no outside source there. It's all self-generated stuff. And so we look at the ratios, and we look at the, whether we think companies are being honest or not. And when we send 3,000 clicks and it's a zero conversion, yet publicly on their affiliate page they're saying their conversion ratio is 1 in 150. Like, you're lying. When I know that someone else is 1 in 150, so I know that the traffic that we generate converts, but it doesn't convert equally.
Oh, of course not.
Right.
Of course not.
And I think,
and everybody's the best and the greatest, right?
Well, and that leads me to the other part of the problem, which is this weird over-reliance on the affiliate market. But it's treated affiliates all along as if they are a problem and not a solution. So there's a lot of antagonism about affiliates.
Right.
But then also a lot of affiliates became bullies to the content producers, telling them, well, we're not sure your site fits our paradigm. I'm like, so there's just been this weird thing all along. But the affiliate market, I think, is dying quickly, the way it's being managed these days.
Yeah, I think that has a lot to do with it, certainly. It can work, it just has to work the right way. Again, I have an opinion on this, but what do you think is wrong with the industry marketing paradigm?
I think,
he laughs.
As someone who, so there's a couple big things. One, I think, and there's been an over-reliance all along on this affiliate model. I built the website. Here's my content. My content is grade A. Your job is to sell my content. And if you fail to sell my content, it's because you are flawed, or your website's flawed, or your traffic is flawed. And therefore, and also this, when someone comes to you to buy traffic from you, they want to buy it at the super cheap discount rates that the traffic brokers are selling junk traffic at. And so the buyers on the other side, they're trained to basically belittle you, belittle your website, and belittle the conversion rates, no matter what they really are, because you can never tell. But they're basically trained to bully you into lowering your prices to a point where it's very difficult to sustain even selling those things. Sure. So I think that, and you can't compare junk traffic from tube sites and traffic inside of these broker networks to direct traffic in the curated sites. It's very different. One is hyper qualified, one is who knows what. And I think there's a culture right now where those are the two extremes that we have. And buyers are generally not that invested in the industry. They come and they go from the companies, so they don't really work on building long-term relationships with people either. So they're not following the general rules of marketing, which are the things that I get to use when I'm selling TV advertising or big national digital campaigns. We're working on the same numbers and we're looking at ROI, but it's professional and people treat each other mostly respectfully. A lot of agencies still have kind of dickish people in them, but that's
I remember.
But again, but that culture exists, but I think it's translated into the adult sphere, but worse because it's dominating the adult space.
Got it.
So,
well, obviously, race in America is certainly a hot topic right now. What changes do you think our industry needs to make regarding race?
For the last 23 years, as long as I've been attached to this industry, it's been a thing that my friends and I have talked about. There is systemic racism in everything about the industry. There's systemic racism in everything about American culture, and in a lot of countries, right? Not just Western countries.
Right.
There's always this thing about the other, but in the adult space, they've always basically justified it by saying things like, well, it doesn't sell. And if it doesn't sell, well, then we don't make it, and our job is to sell. So it's not that we're racist, it's just that we're only going to make the thing that sells, or the thing that sells the most. But that has translated to treating models of color as if they are only useful for that commodity that's about race. So because we're so busy only looking at people as in terms of their value in a racialized product,
interesting.
We will never get rid of racism in the industry, because you're always going to be the black model or the Latino model, or
in other words, if you're the black model, you got to be on the black side.
That and as I heard some people saying on the XBiz thing, once we've sought our quota of black content or Latino content for the year, we're done. So sorry, we can't use you. And I think, that's because everyone's just looking at things in terms of these categories. And I don't know the solution to that, though. I see the problem. We can identify the problem, but you can't force companies to make a thing they can't sell.
No, that's true.
Right. But we also need to start at least talking about race in a different way, and instead of pretending that the problem doesn't exist. I know on the gay side of things, black models that have been friends of mine over the years have always talked about it, have always been saying how they feel and how they don't feel valued and how they don't make as much in general. And I think it is sad. And I think it causes a lot of people to feel very discouraged about it.
Sure.
But again, as long as models are treated as disposable commodities rather than intrinsic parts of the company, I think we'll never get past that.
Well, from that standpoint, I guess there isn't racism because they're all treated that way.
Well, I think the racism is that those people of color are treated even worse.
Yeah,
because they're told
that's the sad part,
right? So they're all not treated well, right? But people of color are treated even worse.
Yeah,
and so like with our award show, I'm not sure where we're going with our categories. I know that other companies have made statements that there will be no racially themed categories. I haven't made that decision yet. We haven't put out our nominations categories yet, because I'm going to be talking to different models of color to find out what they think. I want to know what they think. Not in a public forum. I want to know what they think one-on-one, because I think there's a lot of knee-jerk reaction to when people say things that don't represent what someone else thinks they should say. So I want to talk to people off the record first, get a good feel for how different people are feeling about things, and then we'll make a decision. Because I did a little straw poll on Twitter the other day, just asking people if they thought, and I wanted only a response from people of color.
Oh, interesting.
Well, of course, I got lots of white people with opinions too. But
of course,
it's which is fine.
Didn't even ask their opinion. You got it anyway.
I got it anyway. That's white people. But anyway, wait. What do you mean? My opinion doesn't matter right here. But I got two sets of feedback, and they're that are contradictory. One is no racialized categories at all, and the other one says no, we need to have distinct categories because they get lost in the bigger categories. And there's a lot of people who do a lot of really good work, and they want it to be recognized. So I don't there's no easy solution there, and we've gone round and round this monkey for years, because 20 years ago we dropped a couple of the racial categories based on the suggestion that someone had, and we did, and then we got calls from a couple of different people basically claiming that was an example of us being
that was racist. I was waiting for that.
Because we dropped the categories. Well, so we added the categories and we've tweaked the names because we're trying to do our best as white guys, right, who run a company, to respond to the community in the best way we can. But I feel so our responsibility is to do that. But I only approach it from the opinion of a white guy who's lived a white life, right? So But
you're doing everything you can to get the opinion from the people who really matter.
Well, we're trying to do that even better now. So at this point, because the topic is on the forefront of everyone's minds, I'm trying to get a really good feel for how people of color in the industry feel about it.
Good. Well, going about it. You're certainly going about it the right way, Morgan.
Yeah. Well, I hope so. That's our goal. So.
Absolutely. As always. Now, you are certainly a pioneer of this industry. Where have the rest of the pioneers gone?
Some have left the industry altogether. And I think that for some people, it was a lot of fun in the beginning when we were creating things out of thin air. When what it's going to look like was still an open question, and people were creating new things, new sites, new ideas all the time. And the question of what's new would produce some really interesting answers. I've watched, a couple really innovative companies try to come in and help the industry evolve in new ways, but the industry didn't want to evolve yet. So things like VR technology is there, the cameras are there, the sets are there, people are buying those things for gaming. But a lot of companies just aren't really interested in pursuing it right now.
Sure.
And I think that meanwhile, the mainstream world is pursuing it. So, it's something that people are going to have to do whether they want to or not. But at this point, I don't believe that the industry is driving technology the way it did 15 years ago. I think it's become a follower. And so just another opinion, right?
Yeah. Well, you're not short of them, but they come from a very well-schooled place. In terms of technology, what is the industry doing wrong?
Wrong. Okay, I don't want to use the word wrong, but I think there's a reluctance to adopt new technology until they see their competitors doing it. So everyone's doing a look, wait, and see thing and following the leader, but no one wants to be the leader.
Yeah, but Morgan, that I've been in this industry now for like 17 years, okay? Not as long as you. I've never seen this industry be anything but followers.
Well, I think in the very beginning of it all, when we were building the things like the the subscription models that became standard across the world, when we were doing things like that was innovation. When we were using computers and cams in a new way that people hadn't seen before, that was innovation.
Sure.
And I think around 10 to 15 years ago, it just stopped it being the innovative side of things. At one point, this industry was really a part of things like CES, and that we were an ancillary part, but part.
Right.
And I think there were a lot of interest. There were a lot of tech people that were in the industry as well. Now it's basically, there's an awful lot of people that are just, people that look at spreadsheets.
Well, as mainstream business, as more mainstream people come into the industry, I'm afraid that's what you're going to get.
Yeah. So, and I don't have a solution for that. That's why my own interest has gone to things outside of the industry as well.
It's waned a bit.
But in doing that, I have learned new things that are out there that help drive business for mainstream companies, digital tactics and things that no one in the adult industry has. And it's interesting because there's a reluctance where it can be applied. There's a reluctance by these people to try things that no one else is doing, even though mainstream companies have proven that they work. But also a lot of them I can't sell to adult companies. So at least to their adult facing product. If they have more mainstream products, we can do that. Things like ED and stuff like that all work just fine on these things.
Sure.
But Google and other bigger players that underpin these things aren't interested in adult stuff.
No.
But there are solutions. It's not entirely a locked up thing.
Yeah, I question why VR hasn't taken off more so than it already has in adult.
I remember watching a couple different conferences 2 years ago, one of the trade shows I was at, I can't remember which one, but people talking about it. And what I saw was studio owners themselves who were in that room weren't even aware of it. Like half the people in the room were, but the other half weren't even aware of it. And the questions really were, well, what is that? So it's like,
weird,
right? I know.
Do they read?
Apparently not that much. I don't know. And maybe today they do, but now there's the ground is shaking again. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't know that right now is the time that some people will choose to innovate, but right now would be a good time to innovate.
I think so too. So is reform of the industry necessary, or is it even possible?
I don't know how you reform a thing that isn't centralized. There's no governing body. There's not even a true trade association, right? There's a couple of organizations that do functions that a trade association would, but there really isn't one, and there's no standards that everybody abides by. So,
well, FSC is as close as we got so far.
Right. And I support them, and I've been a supporter of ASACP for 20 years as well.
Absolutely.
But I was on their board for 10 years. But I think that, it's still a loosey-goosey operation with a lot of people doing whatever they want and hoping no one yells at them and hoping they don't get in trouble and just, I don't know. I don't know that I think that the major companies can reform themselves and reform by working with each other, but, there's always going to be outliers doing whatever they want.
This is true. So what's next for CyberSocket?
I think we have to figure out what we're doing for our award show in January. That's probably the next big conversation that Tim and I need to sit down and figure it out, whether we're going to do a live show. I don't think LA is planning on allowing large gatherings. I'm pretty sure the city of West Hollywood will not.
It's still kind of early, but it's not looking that way when you're still seeing record cases.
Well, I know the city of Los Angeles has basically said no large gatherings through the rest of the year. So that's already a done deal. What it's going to look like the second or third week of January, I don't know. Yeah. But I would imagine XBiz is in the same position looking at how they're going to do their trade show.
Or not.
I actually just worked with Webmaster Access to help them drive signups to their virtual show. One of the products that I sell in the mainstream world, I was able to sell to them. And,
what was that?
It's called ATD, Advanced Target Display. So it uses uses voice recognition. So you know how when you talk about things, suddenly you start seeing those ads. It's that technology. It actually is a real thing, not a made up thing. So it's advanced target display. So it uses a combination of voice recognition, Google search stuff, and a couple of other demographic building things to help build an audience. You can focus it on a certain geography, and then you apply a bunch of keywords, and it basically builds an audience out of the internet that is specifically interested in the thing you sell, or the thing you're making. So I've applied that same technology to the American Heart Association in a drive to generate people interested in Medicaid signups. So it's like really interesting permutations of audience building, but this technology works for that. And it works successfully for that. And so it's anyway, so there's, well, how did I get on that topic?
We were talking about shows, and you talked about the virtual show.
I think that virtual shows are working. I know what
they are. That was a really good event. I enjoyed it.
Right. So, and they had 1,000 more people participating, I think, than they were planning on, than they ever thought they would have. And I think they were really brave to do it the way they did it, and to show everyone this can be done. And for the next year, it may be that more trade shows need to be that otherwise, but you also open up your audience. So I think for every trade show, there should always be a virtual option moving forward.
I think you're absolutely right, and I think they're going to work out so good. You're going to start seeing that.
Right. And I know, like, why not Jay? He works for a company that has a technology, his mainstream job, right? He works for a company that has a technology that allows you to do that. So there's plenty of paths forward without being in person. I mean, I think in-person events are great, and meeting face-to-face is great for relationship building, but you know, the world we're in right now is putting limitations on that.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Well, yeah, I hope there will be more virtual shows, because I don't think physical shows are going to happen this year. Right, and I might actually attend 9 virtual shows a year, but there's no way I'll ever go back to showing up at 9 shows a year. I never did, Morgan. I think the most I ever did in a year was like 6, and that was too much. So
right.
Anyway,
it's rough and the older you get, the harder it gets. So you just
hard on the body. I'm 62, man. I ain't gonna. Yeah, it's that's not gonna happen. Well, hey, I'd really like to thank you for being our guest today on Adult Site Broker Talk, and I hope we'll get a chance to do this again really soon.
My broker tip today is part 1 of what to do to make your site more valuable for when you decide to sell it later. First, make sure you're converting as much of your traffic as possible. Traffic's expensive. Whether it's search engine traffic, review site traffic, or affiliate traffic, you pay it a lot for this traffic. So make sure that when someone lands on your site, you give them every opportunity possible to either spend money or do whatever it is that you want your visitors to do. In the case of a pay site, make sure your billing options allow as many people as possible to buy. Have multiple ways to pay. In North America, most everyone has a credit card, but in other parts of the world, credit cards aren't used nearly as much. In Europe, for instance, credit card usage is low. So look for billing options that will match the areas where your traffic comes from. In Europe, ACH and debit cards are used a lot. In Africa and other developing countries, many people pay by mobile. Do your homework and find out how people pay in the regions you get most of your traffic. It will make you more money. The worst thing you can do is get a visitor, have them want to buy, but since you don't have their preferred way to pay, they can't buy. If you're looking for suggestions, feel free to get in touch with me via my website. Along with this is to improve your user experience. Make your site attractive and easy to navigate. People have more options than ever these days. I can't tell you how many sites I go to, even some that are owned by large companies, where the navigation isn't obvious to the user. You poke around the site for what seems like an eternity to do something that should be relatively easy. Keep it simple. Before you launch any changes to your site, ask your friends to go to the site and check it out. Unfortunately, designers and tech geeks don't think like us. You need real people to look at your site for you, the same kind of people who will be visiting your site. Next, make a good offer. If you're selling something and the offer isn't good, you won't make money. It's plain and simple as that. And if your offer is to contact you or get more information, then make the offer attractive and easy to understand. If you're selling something, make buying easy. Show them an easy way to buy and then leave. Help them by making suggestions on what to buy. Amazon.com is the best at this. They always have suggestions on what to buy based on your buying and browsing history. They use AI to do this. There are AI engines available these days at a modest cost. Look into this if you can. Don't clutter up your site with unnecessary items, buttons, and images. Keep it as simple as possible. The best and most successful sites are the simple ones, the ones that lead you to take the action you like them to do. It's not that hard. Just remember, when you're putting together any site, try to think through the buying process like a human being. Whatever you do, don't turn over that process to your designer. Don't just say, build me a website. What you'll get at the other end will not give you what it is you're looking for. Give them as much direction as possible and make it easy for them to build a site for you that makes your business succeed. We'll talk about this subject more next week. And next week we'll be talking to Mark Prince of Too Much. And that's it for this week's Adult Site Broker Talk. I'd once again like to thank my guest, Morgan Sommer. Talk to you again next week on Adult Site Broker Talk. I'm Bruce Friedman.